call this meeting to order. Please stand and join me for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good morning. I'm not sure that are mics working? Do you hear them out there?
Yep. Test 1, 2. Did you turn it on? Is the green light on?
There we go. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this November 7th, 2023 meeting of the Sherburne County Commissioners. With that, I have not learned of any changes to our agenda at this time. Oh, Administrator Messelt.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. We do have a correction to item 3.15. You can either pull it off of consent at the time, or I could correct it now, depending on the board's purview. But we have a double entry that's already been approved by the board. That's the large donation of $50,000 from UCare. That was approved by the board on September 5th, and for the record, I would note that that vote was a 3-2 vote, but it was approved. So the acceptance of the grant award was approved on September 5th, and with the board's permission, we can just delete that and then take action on approving the other items.
Okay. So the options are to remove 3.15 and deal with it separately. There has been an adjustment. It's my understanding the $50,000 donation has been removed as we voted on that in the past. What is the wish of the board?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda with that change.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Moving on to agenda item number 2, that of open forum. Ms. Keisha Broderick.
We have 2 people signed up and an online submission.
Okay.
The first person will be Kari Watkins of St. Cloud, speaking on hand counting.
Okay, thanks. Good morning, Kari.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I wanted to let you know about an experience I had in a training session for hand counting votes on paper ballots. These trainings are going on in many areas throughout the country, as many people are wanting to be prepared when the electric voting systems are disallowed. This is how we were trained. There were 4 people assigned to a table. This would consist of 2 people from each party. 2 of the 4, 1 from each party, would look at the ballot and call out the candidate who was voted for in the first race on the ballot. The other 2 people, 1 from each party, would each mark a tally sheet like this for the candidate whose name was called out. The tally would be in blue pen for the first 50 ballots and red pen for the next 50, switching pens for each set of 50 ballots. Also, after every 50 ballots, the 2 tally sheets were compared, and if there was a discrepancy, the 50 ballots were recounted until the tally sheets were matching. There are 3 ways to mark the tally sheets. A single slash to start. If you need to go through the ballots again, you add another slash in the other direction to make an X. If you need to go through the ballots a 3rd time, you will fill the box on the tally sheet entirely. This would continue for all races on the ballot until all votes were counted. And depending on how big the precinct is, you may have several to many tables of people tallying the votes. The boxes for tallying the votes are all numbered, so it makes it very easy to add up the votes as you progress through each batch of 50 votes. My team had to recount some of the groups of 50 twice, but we never had to retally a 3rd time. It gave me confidence that hand counting can happen efficiently, accurately, and cost-effectively. There is no need to use electronic voting systems. I'm giving you a sample of the tally sheet and the precinct tally sheet total sheet, so you can see how easily a hand count of paper ballots can be done. Thank you.
Thanks, Kari.
Next, we have Brett Collier of Big Lake speaking on Graham's Park.
Good morning, Brett.
Good morning, all. Brett Collier, Big Lake. Last time I was here, I spoke about Graham's Park prefab restroom, and I'm going to do it again. But first, a little background about myself. I spent most of the 90s working at 4 different nuclear power plants, doing procurement, purchasing millions of dollars of equipment, saving millions of dollars for my customers. So I know a little bit about how these things are supposed to work. As you remember, back July 18th, you voted on Agenda Item 6.8, authorizing the budgeting of $150,000 of American Rescue Plan Act funds for the purchase of a prefab vault-style restroom. Funds that were going to be matched with another $150,000, apparently out of the park budget. A $300,000 restroom. The cost was questioned by only one commissioner. In my travels in the following weekend, I happened to run across an almost identical restroom in Missouri at 10% of the cost to what, and brought it to people's attention. I talked to your Gina Hugo last month and see that the county is now on the correct path, which is good, but I still have a problem. How did this $300,000 proposal get in front of the commissioners in the first place? Whoever wrote and approved this proposal that was put before you needs to be removed from their position if they haven't been already. One must either be completely incompetent at their job, or this was an attempt at something more nefarious. You as commissioners and we as tax-paying residents need to know exactly how this happened. In addition, I want an independent audit, independent meaning not performed by Sherburne County employee, but an outside agency of every other project budget that these individuals had a hand in. $300,000 for a $30,000 item is not a simple mistake. It's not padding for sundry. We're talking about taxpayer money, and a lot of taxpayer money, almost $250,000. How many more of these drastically inflated budget items have been brought before the commissioners and passed? If there are other items like this out there, we need to know. Second, as I still have a little time left, it looks like at the end of last week, the shoulders around the reconstruction of the County Road 43 were hydro-seeded. Grass seed, in order to germinate, needs to have temperatures of at least 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Why did we just spend who knows how much money on hydro-seeding something that's going to be covered up with snow in a few weeks and not hold off until spring when we're going to have to do this again? Thank you.
Thanks, Brett. And there was an online submission.
Yep, there is an online submission from Catherine Stanek of St. Croix Falls, and Administrator Messel will be reading that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. We did receive an online submission from Catherine Stanek from St. Croix Falls, Wisconsin. The title of the comment was Religious Persecution by Judicial System. I'm just going to summarize it. It's quite lengthy. It basically is asking for basically investigation or looking into a harassment order apparently signed by a Sherburne County judge, and it deals with allegations of child sex trafficking and sexual exploitation of children. So what I'm going to do is refer this to the county attorney and the sheriff to review for you.
Okay, thank you. And that submission just came to us, so we will look into that further. With that, that concludes our open forum. So thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 3, that of the consent agenda. We did have that minor change on number 3.15, so I would be open to a motion.
We approve the consent agenda.
Motion's been made to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Gray, first by Felber. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Moving on to that of agenda item number 4, announcements. I'll turn it over to Administrator Messelt.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Just a couple quick announcements for today. First, and perhaps most importantly, just a reminder for the Housing Summit tomorrow. We have over 90 participants signed up already, so it looks like it'll be a great turnout for that. Second of all, just to note that our Jessica Bartels was awarded, or will be awarded, Volunteer of the Year by the Area Chamber of Commerce. So congratulations to Jessica. There will be an award luncheon next Tuesday, the 14th, and commissioners are invited. So if you would let me know if you're possibly interested in attending, so I can post for a social event. And we'd like to go and cheer and celebrate Jessica's award. Third, we did receive a petition, which I don't know if Diane has validated yet, has validated for a big Eagle Lake Improvement District. This is the group that came and spoke to you in a workshop, if you remember. The statutory requirements are for a meeting of the board within 30 days. However, we've requested and have received, at least at this point, oral agreement by the petitioners that they are okay with the meeting happening at the December 7th board meeting. So instead of having a special meeting, we can just take on the consideration of the Lake Improvement District formation at your December 7th meeting. So we'll be complying with the notice requirements for all of the properties that were affected. Those notices will more than likely go out today or tomorrow. Fourth, Big Elk Lake Park. In addition to being on your agenda for today for discussion, I just want to note that we were awarded by the Legacy Minnesota Lakes and Trails Group a legacy award of just shy of $2 million for development of Big Elk Lake Park. That's an amazing amount of money. There is a local match, of course, required for that. And kudos to Gina and to Andrew for getting that prepared and seeing that through to award. That's really exciting news for us.
And it's my understanding that it was the highest rated project.
Correct.
So really
Correct.
exciting.
And I know you'll be discussing the park a little bit later today, so I know you can talk to Gina directly. Fifth, just a note, we are in Operation Green Light, so in addition to, or the week of Operation Green Light, in addition to the proclamation that you will discuss later, just note that the lights in front of the government center are green. If you come at night, they probably didn't see them today so well. And as soon as we get a clear day, we'll take some updated photos, and they'll be both on the Facebook page as well as the county website page in honor of our veterans. And then last but not least, just to note that we did receive a request from the City of St. Cloud to reconvene the Regional Homelessness Task Force. The request is that we appoint essentially at this point non-elected officials to participate, so we'll probably do one staff person, one community person to sit on that regional task force, and that will be getting going here in the next probably couple of weeks. And with that ends any announcements. I can stand for any questions the board may have.
Any other announcements? I have a couple more, just a few that I think are relevant. We have been asked to meet with the Commissioner of Transportation regarding our 169 overpass project. We're working on the last around 15 million for that project, so we'll be meeting with the Commissioner of Transportation on Thursday. And then we also got a meeting with the Senate Bonding Committee. They're doing group meetings down at the Anoka Ramsey Tech College, so we'll be down there Thursday evening with our 5 minutes in front of the Senate Bonding Committee. So those are great signs that we're still on their radar and they're looking at us. So, and then with it also being Operation Greenlight and our emphasis on veterans this month, I just wanted to share, many of you know that I chair a statewide organization for AMC called Futures, and our gathering is next Thursday and Friday out at Camp Ripley, and our whole focus is being veterans. So we're honoring veterans at our meeting next Thursday and Friday with our statewide gathering. So that's it. Any other announcements? Okay, then we'll move on to our agenda item number 5.1 on the regular agenda. Consider and approve by proclamation November 6th through 12th, 2023 as Operation Green Light for Veterans Week. Welcome, Bruce Price and company. And Bruce, if you could also introduce your staff.
I will, and that's what I snuck in the back door. Madam Chair, thank you. I'd like to take an opportunity to introduce our newest member to our office. And he was tasked to read the proclamation. And as you may be aware, this is the second year that we've done this as the county. And I believe it came out through the National Association of Counties last year. But the Green Light program was established back in 2013. So I hope to see this go on in the future. And with that, I'll introduce Josh Weeman, who hails from the big town of Zimmerman and Princeton area. And he came to us from the Minnesota National Guard, and is a military retiree. So with that, I will have Josh come up and read the proclamation. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Welcome, Josh, and
Thank you.
welcome to Sherburne.
Commissioner, staff, guests, thank you for the opportunity. And as Bruce stated, I am a veteran. I served 24 years with the Minnesota National Guard. I'm also a combat veteran where I served in Operation Iraqi Freedom from 2003 to 2005. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here and look forward to pass on my skills, my knowledge, and my love for the veterans. So thank you.
Okay, great.
So proclamation, Operation Green Light for Veterans. Are we clear to do the proclamation? All right.
Sure.
Whereas the residents of Sherburne County have great respect, admiration, and the utmost gratitude for all the men and women who have selflessly served in our country and the community and the armed forces. And whereas the contributions and sacrifices of the men and women who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and the way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas Sherburne County seeks to honor these individuals who have paid the high price for freedom by placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. And whereas veterans continue to serve our community in the American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars, Legion groups, civil service, and functioning as a county veteran service officers in 29 states to help fellow former service members access more than $52 billion in federal health, disability, and compensation benefits each year. And whereas approximately 200,000 service members transition to civilian communities annually. And whereas an estimated 20% increase of service members will transition to civilian life in the near future. And whereas studies indicate that 44 to 72% of service members experience high levels of stress during transitioning from military and to civilian life. And whereas active military service members transitioning from the military service are at high risk for suicide during their first year after military service. And whereas the National Association of Counties encourages all counties, parishes, and boroughs to recognize Operation Greenlight for veterans. And whereas the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners appreciates the sacrifices of the United States military personnel and believes specific recognition should be granted. Now therefore be it resolved that, in addition to an observance of Veterans Day, November 11th, Sherburne County hereby proclaims November 6th through November 12th, 2023, an Operation Greenlight for Veterans Week. A time to salute, honor the service and sacrifices of our men and women in uniform transitioning from active service. Be it further resolved that, in observance of Operation Greenlight for Veterans Week, Sherburne County encourages its citizens and patriotic tradition to recognize the importance of honoring all those that have made the immeasurable sacrifice and preserved freedom by displaying a green light in the window of their place of business or residence.
Thanks, Josh, and I would ask for a motion to approve by proclamation the designation of November 6th through 12th as Operation Greenlight for Veterans Week.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Hulls,
I'll second that.
seconded by Commissioner Danielowski. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Thank you, and thank you to all the Veteran Service Office staff that are here with us today to celebrate this as we recognize our veterans. Thank you. We'll move on now to agenda item number 5.2, consider and approve the proclamation of November as Adoption Month. We'll welcome Ms. Kelly Schmidt.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, my name is Kelly Schmidt. I'm the Child Welfare Supervisor here. I've had the honor of serving families for over 20 years as a social worker, acting as the adoption social worker here and now supervising that program. Our proclamation today: adoption gives children a brighter future and brings great joy to the adoptive parents. Together, let us support families by supporting the children in need of permanent families. Every child deserves a loving, nurturing, and permanent family. Whereas establishing and/or ensuring permanency for children who have been abused, neglected, and abandoned and cannot reside with their birth families is a priority for Sherburne County Health and Human Services. And whereas many of the children awaiting adoption have physical, mental, and emotional needs and require special nurturing that comes from loving homes, adoptive parents who accept responsibility for these children feel it is one of the most rewarding experiences for them. And whereas foster, kinship, and adoptive families who open their homes and their hearts to support children when families are in crisis play a vital role in helping children and families heal and reconnect. And whereas it is important to stress that disability, low income, being single, or a part of a non-traditional family does not disqualify families from adopting. And whereas these children need extra patience and support to help them overcome previous hardships, and the families who have adopted these children require and deserve community and agency support. And whereas Sherburne County Health and Human Services provides support to adoptive families through post-adoption services, ongoing voluntary case management, a monthly support group, along with offering educational opportunities and social activities funded through a grant from the Bridges Sherburne County Children's Mental Health Collaborative. And now, therefore, the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim November 7th, 2023 Adoption Month, and encourages relatives, neighbors, community agencies, businesses, schools, faith-based organizations, and others to celebrate adoption through furthering an awareness of the challenges and issues in adoption, honoring families that grow through adoption, and focusing attention on those children who live in the shadow of an uncertain future while they await permanent families. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the Great Seal of Sherburne County to be affixed at the Sherburne County Government Center this 7th day of November 7th, 2023.
Okay, and this also, I would entertain a motion to approve the proclamation of November as Adoption Month.
So moved. Okay.
Motion been made by Commissioner Gray and seconded by Commissioner Felber.
Yeah, I'd just like to mention, as an adopted person, I'm very much in favor of this. So,
Thanks, Greg. Any other comments? Thank you for being here, and thank you for the work you do on behalf of our parents and our kids and our families.
Thank you.
And Meg, did you have
Madam
anything?
Commissioner, if it would be all right, we have just a short statement we'd like to read. Is that all right?
Let's vote on the proclamation, and then we'll hear that, okay? Any other comments? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Meg?
I will let Kelly start.
Okay.
Okay. Sherburne County Health and Human Services is dedicated to the safety, well-being, and permanency of children. Although we make diligent efforts to keep families together, sometimes this is just not possible to do while keeping children safe. When placement of children is necessary, we strive to have children placed with relatives or kin, and to promote connection to their parents, tribe, community, and other invaluable parts of their known world. As we pour time and resources into reunification, we simultaneously do the same into concurrent planning, knowing the reality is that not all children can safely return home. In 2023, 4 children in Sherburne County reached adoption finalization through their CHIPS Matter. At present, there are 7 more children waiting adoption. Of these children, 5 are placed in pre-adoptive homes and heading towards adoption day. 2 are in the care of safe, loving, and supportive foster care providers while relative search and recruitment efforts continue. Additionally, 2 youth turned 18 while child wards, one of whom has chosen to participate in our extended foster care program to learn to live independently, gain job skills, and finish high school with continued care and support. There have also been 8 step and grandparent adoptions in Sherburne County this year. It is our honor to serve the children of this county and to support permanency for each of them. The journey to adoption often starts with significant grief and loss. But the journey through adoption ensures children have a sense of safety and belonging, a home where there is love and stability, and a place where parents can provide for them and meet their needs. And it is in these safe and loving places where healing and hope are possible and children can thrive. Thank you for acknowledging Adoption Awareness Month and for supporting permanency for the children in our community.
And lastly, one of Sherburne County's newest initiatives is to offer families where there has been an adoption or another permanency outcome called transfer of permanent legal and physical custody ongoing case management outside of the child welfare unit through voluntary case management services. We know that often stories of adoption and transfer of permanent legal physical custody are often filled with complex emotions of joy and grief, loss and hope, and that these children and those caring for them will need ongoing support, not only from informal supports, but also sometimes from the county system. By continuing to support families post-adoption and post-transfer of permanent legal physical custody, we are providing early intervention children's mental health services, as often complex trauma becomes a crisis down the road, and permanency families return seeking support from children's mental health. This early intervention support is aimed at decreasing the need for deep end services and supporting families differently. As we celebrate adoption today, we continue to recognize that adoption is not a one-time event, but a lifetime journey. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And again, I appreciate our Health and Human Services staff that are here with us today, as well as our veteran staff. It helps our public understand the depth and the breadth of the work that we do here as board members. So thank you. Thank you for your work and for being here. We will move along to our next topic, that of Xcel Energy, and a report by Mark Ossendorf from Xcel. Good morning.
Morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Again, I'm Mark Ossendorf with Xcel Energy. Thank you for having us. I will not be presenting. We have some others here, so I won't be boring you today, but we've got some others that are much more in-depth knowledge of the project, and we'll share that with you. So thank you for having us today. This is a very important project for the company, for the industry, as we make this carbon-free energy transition. This project will has the potential to unlock, more than 2 gigawatts of renewable energy, and that needs to re-interconnect it at Sherco. So we'll get into that for a minute, but I wanted to address you and share with you October 5th, 1987, I started my journey at Xcel Energy. December 1st will be my final day. The company offered me an opportunity to retire a bit early, and I said yes. So my application was accepted, and I thank you. I hope I've met expectations, but I'll be around till December 1st, and not sure on a transition plan yet. That'll be forthcoming. I'll certainly communicate with Bruce and Dan so they know who can help you moving forward. But I thank you for the opportunity to serve you.
Oh, thanks, Mark. Commissioner Danielowski.
Congratulations on your retirement, well-earned, well-deserved, and I'd have to say, having been able to work with you for all those years, you're going to be missed, and thank you for being so connected with our area in regards to Xcel.
I appreciate your kind words. Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, I'll concur with what Rayanne said. I think the short time I've worked with you, Mark, you've been nothing but professional and treated Sherburne County and the residents tremendously, and I thank you and congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you, Commissioner Gray.
Yes, Mark, congratulations. I'm shocked. You're too young. You've served this area so well. You've served Xcel so well and the community, and our paths have crossed in different ways over a lot of those years. So congrats, and I wish you all the best, and you will be greatly missed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I greatly appreciate it, so thank you. With that, I'm going to turn over to Randy Fordyce and Matt Langen, and they'll walk us through the presentation.
Welcome.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, I'll just note, I hope one thing that doesn't change is Mark's cell phone number, because I'm going to be calling it regardless of when his last day is. Just click this one. Here we go. My name is Randy Fordyce. I'll walk through some background information on the Minnesota Energy Connection project and then turn it over to Matt Langen, who leads our permitting efforts for transmission lines around the region, including this project. But the Minnesota Energy Connection project is a new transmission line that will run about 175 miles from the existing Sherco grid connection, which is really important infrastructure for Xcel Energy to be able to continue serving customers after the coal operations are retired. The transmission line that we're proposing, it's in state review right now, and we'll get kind of into the details of that in a moment, will run from, if approved, run from the Sherco grid connection to southwest Minnesota, where it will connect with proposed renewable energy, mainly wind and solar, potentially some storage as well, and replace the coal-fired electricity that will be retired beginning at the end of this year, and then the 2 remaining units retired by the end of the decade. You can see a quick map, and we will go into a more detailed map of Sherburne County options in a moment. But we started about 18 months ago, or about 15 months ago, with that kind of wide white shaded area that you see there, really trying to identify the best potential locations for a transmission line to connect from southwest Minnesota to the Sherco grid connection. We met with landowners at public open houses, both in person and virtually, several times, beginning last fall, this spring, and then again this summer, to ask for their feedback on what the land use impacts of these route options could be. And land use is anything from proximity to homes, impacts to agriculture, and really find out what's important to them in each individual area, and then present kind of what we had seen from our initial review, and then got to the point where just last week we filed the route permit application for the project with the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission. Overall, we received more than 700 individual comments from landowners, and Matt's team went through each one of those, tracked it geographically to make sure that we were, identifying what those concerns were, and then potentially mitigating those impacts along with the state required state rules that govern this kind of process, to get to the point where we could submit that application and move it into the state's review process. A little bit more about that. We sent hundreds of thousands of mailings out to landowners throughout the area and local governments, held those open houses, and really looked to identify route options that kind of met each area, whether it was following some sort of existing corridor, potentially a transmission line, roadways, field and section lines, really trying to minimize the impact, particularly to ag operations and communities and cities, as opposed to just going kind of diagonally through fields and cutting properties in half, that kind of thing. But all of the information that we reviewed is in the application. I was talking to Commissioner Gray a moment ago. It can be a giant application if you take a look at the thousands of pages of documents that Matt and his team put together. That's now being reviewed by the Department of Commerce and Public Utilities Commission. From a regulatory process, there are 2 key permits that are needed. Both will be reviewed simultaneously by the Public Utilities Commission. One, a certificate of need. Is the project needed? Will it serve customers? Is it cost effective? What alternatives did we review that could meet that project's need? And then the route permit, and this is what most people are concerned about. Where will it actually go? That combined review is just kicking off with the filing of the application, and the State Department of Commerce and Commission are preparing for the 2 kind of key sets of public meetings and hearings that we expect to kick off early next year with the environmental impact statement. And that covers everything that you would think about the environment, birds, wetlands, wildlife, but also those land use impacts. What would the impact to the local environment be if this line was chosen? And then public hearing, or if one route was chosen, and then public hearings we would expect those to occur in the middle part of the year, with the decision in late '24, more likely early 2025. Matt, do you want to jump in on public comment opportunities? I kind of stole some of your thunder.
Thank you, Randy, and Madam Chair, Commissioners. Thank you for having us today. We'll walk through some of the pieces that are from here forward in the state's review process, and talk about how communities can participate and provide feedback to the state. But one thing that I do want to say, Randy hit on sort of the overall picture of our pre-application outreach that we conducted. Specifically, though, for Sherburne County, your constituents did a great job participating. They offered, they were active, they provided a lot of constructive feedback. One of the things that we hear is when we're routing transmission lines is, don't put it right next to my house. And so we heard that loud and clear. Of course, from the agricultural side of things, there's a lot of irrigation, a lot of center pivot irrigation in this area, right? So we heard very strongly from folks that do not cut directly through our properties, as we have center pivot irrigators that would not be able to function. So if you're going to route on the field line, on the property line, so that we can continue to operate our center pivot irrigation. The other piece, and actually we worked with your staff on this, is identifying an appropriate crossing of the Mississippi River. That is a large obstacle, I'll say, in this process. We are not going to be able to build a transmission line between Becker and southern Lyon County without crossing the Mississippi River. So we're looking for, working with your county staff as well as the Minnesota DNR, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, to identify appropriate locations to cross the river. So that's a little bit of a summation of the pre-application work. We took all of that feedback and are proposing routes in our permit application. Once we file that application, the State Public Utility Commission really takes over the process from there. We as an applicant are there to support, provide additional information as requested, but it's really the state's review at this point. And the state is going to want communities and individual landowners to participate along the way. A couple of those opportunities to participate, first would be the public information and scoping meetings. We're anticipating those to be hosted in January of this next year, so 2024, a couple months from now. What the state will ask at that point is two things. One, what should we study? What are the impacts that are important to you that you want us to study about the routes that XL has proposed? And the other is, are there routes that XL has, above and beyond what XL has proposed, that would be less impactful than what are in the application? So, and this could be anything from a full end-to-end route to small route segments that might create fewer impacts than those that we proposed. And so the state is going to ask for that in January. Not only will those meetings be held in the project area, but there will also be a written comment period, about a 30-day written comment period, so folks can participate either way there. And so we hosted meetings, pre-application meetings at the Becker Community Center, a couple rounds of those. It would probably be, again, Becker or Monticello that we would be hosting, that the state would be hosting these. So after those scoping meetings, the state will prepare that environmental impact statement. And once that environmental impact statement is developed and made public, public hearings will be conducted by an administrative law judge. Those two will be held in the project area. And the administrative law judge at that point is going to ask communities and individual landowners, state and federal agencies, which route do you recommend? What route is the least impactful based on the environmental information that we've assembled? The ALJ then will take all of that feedback across the project, compile that, and prepare a report and recommendation to the Public Utilities Commission. And then the Public Utilities Commission will ultimately review the record and approve a route. That decision is anticipated, I would say, no earlier than the end of 2024 and more likely the first part of 2025. So it's, this is a, 15 to 18 month public review process that we've just kicked off with our application being filed last week. Oh, did I do that wrong? Sorry. There we go. We do, as part of this, have an easement acquisition process once the commission does approve a route, and will work with individual landowners to secure an easement. The key word there is easement acquisition. The the landowner still is allowed to use the land within that easement. After we acquire it, that easement allows Xcel the ability to operate and maintain the line over the course of its existence. Construction process, we're anticipating, if we get that approval in early 2025, we anticipate the construction process would begin in late 2025, and then the project being in service in late 2027. So a full 2 years worth of construction for the project. And here's some of that timeline, certificate of need and route permit applications this year, regulatory review over the next 12 to 18 months, and then construction late 25 to late 27. And here's just an important slide that, and of course, I think the board has this PowerPoint presentation, but if your constituents do have questions, we do have a project-specific toll-free number that's on the screen here. That rolls to Randy and my desk. We're able to, if we're not there on the spot to answer it, we're back in touch with folks within 24 hours. But if any of your constituents or yourselves have questions, feel free and call that number. We do have a project-specific email. That's another good way to get in touch with us. And then the project website itself is, I think, really a great place. We hope that we have not only a great deal of information available on there for folks to review and understand project information, project timelines, but also an interactive map. And often that's the number one thing people want to look at is where are these lines proposed. We think it's user-friendly. You can type in your address. It'll bring you right to your area of interest. There are different backgrounds, whether it's an aerial view or a topo view. So we think that that's a very handy interactive map that folks can use. But if anyone has questions about the project, the map, the timelines, again, the email or the toll-free phone number are a great way to get in touch with us.
Madam Clerk, if you could bring up the PDF that we've provided as well, and then we can take a look at the specific route options.
Oh, sure. Good point, Randy, and thank you for bringing that up. So you can see the route options that we've identified in our application that are within Sherburne County before we cross the river. You'll see a green segment, and that green segment comes out of the existing Sherco substation just south of the existing coal plant, and then goes up to what is being constructed, the Sherco Solar West substation. And there's a line being proposed between those two substations that's already been permitted, and there's an open position on one side that will just use that eventual existing right-of-way to place the very first part of the Minnesota Energy Connection project. From there, you can see that the line going blue and purple route to two separate locations where we would cross the Mississippi River. One is, sort of a shorter and immediate getting across the river. We are able to parallel an existing transmission line crossing of the river at that location. Another routes, the blue line, blue route, routes up north and crosses the river north of Clearwater, and at a position where we can make not only a crossing of the river itself, but then of course we have a crossing of I-94 and the existing CapEx line. And that's a good position from an engineering and construction standpoint and operations to cross the river and the interstate and CapEx at that spot. Again, these routes would be available on that interactive map on our project website, and if folks have questions, sometimes your constituents may come to you for those questions, but certainly you can route them to us, and we'd be happy to answer any questions they have.
Okay. Thanks, Matt and Randy, for that great information. I'm going to open it up to questions and comments from the board.
The green segment there, is that part of the 345 kVW line that's being built right now for Sherco 1 and 2?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, yes, yes it is.
Okay. The additional, then, the purple and hashtag, that would be an additional line extending from Sherco Solar Substation, basically west?
Madam Commissioner, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Others?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Halls?
The transmission project itself is a huge project. One thing I would be interested in, I don't know if any of the rest of the commissioners would be interested in this or not, but at some point, I would like to have a workshop on the overall grid replacement of the retiring coal facilities and what generation is being used to replace that, taking into account the population growth of the county, et cetera. We had a little bit of that, I don't know, about 6 months ago. But from a technical standpoint, I would be very interested in just understanding how this fits into the whole thing. And I realize part of that's proprietary to Excel. There's some things you can't share, but I'd be interested in understanding the larger picture from a technical standpoint on how that's all going to plan to fall out at the end of all this transition.
Madam Chair, Commissioner, that sounds like a great idea, and we may need an extra person or two to fully answer that question, so we appreciate being able to set that up in the future. Thank you.
Administrator Messelt?
Just wondering if you'd rather do that within the ad hoc energy transition subcommittee, or if you want to have it at a workshop, which would then be a publicly posted meeting, so. Okay.
Doesn't matter.
I mean, I think it'd be a little more comfortable if it's in the ad hoc subcommittee, so it's information only, so it would qualify as a topic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I think start it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, Madam Chair, if the subcommittee feels it's information that should be brought forward, they can make that recommendation then.
Well, they technically can't make a recommendation to the board, but after that, if there's still interest, I can schedule it, yeah, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I concur with all that, but I have one question that's not related to the line necessarily. It's kind of popped in my head. Would it be possible, once the solar panels are set in, this first phase is done, could we physically tour the inside of that?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, I believe so. I think we'd talk to Mark, and I would coordinate with our siting and land rights teams to kind of manage and construction. You wanted to clarify, you wanted after the panels are installed and construction's complete?
Once everything's actually working.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
On both segments, because Sherco Solar 1 and 2 is one project into two segments. Do you want them both?
Just once one section of the panels is actually up and operating, so when people say this, that, or the other thing about how the panels function, I can say, I actually stood next to the panel, and this is what it looks like, this is what it does, what the environment around it looks like.
We can make that happen.
That would be fantastic.
Thanks, Mark. Others?
From a personal standpoint, considering that this whole thing resides basically in my district, I guess the shorter purple route, from a personal standpoint, would be better, considering I'm very familiar with where you're routing the blue line. And yes, that will affect thousands of acres of irrigation systems and area that I know I will be coming under fire for if those are disrupted. So that's just a personal feeling and what's in my district. And I think that we'll get to that point, I'm sure. But yeah, that's just my comment I have.
Sounds like there's some opportunity for you to make that known through these processes, and then the law judge will be wanting those comments, so.
I believe those individuals affected will be making their own comments. I have no doubt, because they've already made them to me, so.
Okay, others? Okay, really appreciate the thorough overview and the update, and look forward to this next year and a half as we continue the process.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes.
Maybe 2 beaches.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 5.4, moving to planning and zoning. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Addison Otto, and I work in the Planning and Zoning Department, and I also have Gabby and Dave here. So as you perhaps recall, earlier in the year, we had asked for and received your support to apply to be a host site for the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's Green Corps program. We were selected as a host site based on our work plan and application, and we had a Green Corps member, and unfortunately, he has resigned. So we still, we are still very interested in following through on those initiatives that we had outlined in that work plan. If you recall, one of the largest projects that we had kind of outlined was doing waste characterization studies within schools. So looking at what kind of waste, how much waste is generated at the schools within Sherburne County. And we actually have been to 5 schools within the county, and we've done walkthroughs with staff and kind of looked at what they currently have going on for systems. And so we already have that buy-in of participation from several schools. And so we don't want to leave them hanging. We'd like to continue to work with them and, offer education and outreach opportunities for ways that they can reduce their waste and increase recycling. And so Gabby and I are prepared to roll up our sleeves and dig through some garbage, quite literally. But we would definitely appreciate if we had some additional manpower to assist us. So we are looking to hire a seasonal part-time employee that can help us out with some of the initiatives that were outlined in that work plan so that we can continue that work. I'd like to note that this position is already budgeted for in this year's and next year's solid waste budget, so no additional funding would be needed. We just need the approval in order to post a position and get someone on board.
Okay, thanks, Addie and company, for that overview. Any questions or comments, or what's the wish of the board with this? As Addie stated, this position's already been budgeted. So?
Madam
Madam
Chair,
Chair.
just, this work is pretty critical that they started working on. So I would be in favor of doing it, and I would move that we approve the hiring of the part-time seasonal person.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Felber,
Madam Chair, I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Danielowski. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I just wanted to say I totally concur with Commissioner Felber. Both of us sitting on the Tri-County Solid Waste group, we totally support the need to figure out how we keep as much waste out of our landfills as possible. And a lot of times it's not that the schools don't want to participate, but they don't have the staff to do it. So if we can go in and make assessments and put out something that they can just easily pick up and roll with, I'm all in favor of doing this. And like you said, it's already been budgeted, and I think it's a good thing that we continue to do.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Halls.
so the resignation of this Green Corps member, does this have an impact on the organic waste project as well?
The organic wastes project, are you referring to the feasibility study for an SS? No, that is a separate project that our office is working on. Yep,
Right.
so that will not affect it.
Okay.
Good question. Others? Okay, we do have a motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Item number 5.5, consider and approve the Sherburne County Comprehensive Land Use Plan. Feel like we should have drums and bells and whistles for this. It's been a long time coming.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we started this process in Commissioners in April of 2022. And it's been my privilege to kind of work on this comprehensive land use plan for Sherburne County. With the amount of engagement that we did, 40 different sessions, a couple hundred hours of listening and working with our key stakeholders to give us the base for this comprehensive land use plan, I think was critical. So it did take some time, but we definitely listened and tried to implement the feedback that we got from our stakeholders into this document. And with the support of our lead consultant, Lance Bernard, and HKGI, we've prepared a comprehensive plan for your recommendation of approval. I'm looking for your recommendation of approval. And with that, today I'm looking for a motion to approve or to adopt the Sherburne County Comprehensive Plan 2040 Land Use Plan and rescind the 2010 to 2030 Comprehensive Land Use Plan. And the background of this project is the purpose of the comprehensive plan gives us our basis for our zoning and subdivision regulations. It helps guide growth for the 8 townships that we have zoning authority over for the next 20 years. And we held our public hearing on September 21st, 2023. We received a handful of comments. Those have been included into the board packet. And the Planning Advisory Commission gave us a recommendation of approval at that public hearing. So today, I'm seeking your action on this item.
Okay, thanks, Mark, for that overview. And I would be open to questions, comments, or a motion by the board.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the Sherburne County Comprehensive Land Use Plan and the rescission of the 2010-2030 Comprehensive Land Use Plan.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Danielowski. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Gray. Questions or comments?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Hulse.
The body of this work is very, very good. And I think overall, I'm very pleased with where it is. I was hoping to say something before we had a motion, because there's a couple of areas that I have just some minor changes of concern. One is around the page around why do we recognize the land and water? The way I read that section, it's a one-page piece. It doesn't feel like it fits with the rest of the document. And there's nothing wrong in my mind and as an example of saying something to the effect of the land currently known as Sherburne County has been home to a myriad of peoples over the last 8,000 to 10,000 years. And as the current stewards of the county, we have a duty to put forth a comprehensive plan that is responsible to the citizens, to the resources, and to the land itself. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In general, I think that's where you're trying to get with that statement. But it feels like, to me, it goes a little bit beyond that. And if we stated it that way, then it feels to me like it fits with the rest of the document because it sort of sets the groundwork and it moves forward. The way it's phrased right now, it feels like it's disconnected to me. So it's a wordsmithing piece is all it is, but it's a concern that I have, and there's a specific phrase in there that is troublesome to me, and it talks about colonization being an ongoing process, and it feels to me that implies the current residents of Sherburne County are colonists, and I'm not sure that that's appropriate to be in there in that way. So I was hoping that we could just reword this section a bit. And then the other thing is on page 30, there are 2 tables. The left-hand table appears to be an error. It's a park usage table, and it's the numbers for all of the different types of usage, biking, pedestrian, etc., are all identical. And so it looks to me like that table's just incorrect. And so I just wanted to have that table updated as well. Those were the 2 pieces that I had a little bit of concern with.
So I've got a little more. I'm also not a big fan of the land use thing, partly because, as a, Scotch, Irish, Cherokee person raised by Austrians in Wisconsin, I don't have any cultural ties. But during our cultural training, we learned that at least some Anishinaabe people are not in favor of the land statements altogether. So I think those are just better left out of documents. On page 76, there's a thing in there about allowing local artists to replace, allowing graffiti on our public spaces. Graffiti is a crime not to be encouraged. Some climate change stuff on page 82. Some of this stuff is just things that I'm not in favor with, and some of it is actual deal killers. Probably the biggest one, I would like to not the biggest one of the bigger ones, is shared septic systems. I don't think those should be allowed at all, and we should have that in the plan. Page 87, where it talks about limiting where people can put their homes on their property. I think that where I put my home on the property I purchased is my own business. On the back on the septic issue, we do need, when somebody is damaged, it does say in there that we're going to have to get permits to get your septic, take care of your septic after storm damage. We need to have some way for people. My neighbor had to live with a hole in his house while his septic was being replaced. We need to fix that. 105 is probably the biggest one. Will not sign off on the idea that we are going to subsidize the multi-billion-dollar companies that build electric cars. If they want to promote their product in this area, they need to build the charging stations. It should not be taxpayer dollars. We're already spending way too much money nationally in tax dollars funding electric cars. So that's something I can't sign off on. I understand that these things are supposed to be somewhat of a changeable document over time, but I'm not going to sign my name to something that I'm absolutely opposed to. And then, once again, we're going to the park and bikeways thing. I've already talked about that in other times. So that's probably the primary items. I don't want to spend way too much time on it. There's a few more, but.
Okay. So how do we want to tackle this? I'm looking to Bruce.
A couple options. I mean, first of all, the table, I think if there's a technical error, we can obviously fix that. It sounded like the issue, if the board has a consensus position on any of these other ones, we can obviously address it as well. We did do a land acknowledgement statement for the new park. I think there's some room there if the board wants to direct staff to work on that a little bit and specifically address that issue of colonization. And given that the park land acknowledgement statement was done and then we had our training, I think those two data points would give us a chance if you did want us to review that. With respect to the other items, I think we could review them specifically with Commissioner Felber and bring them as data points at the next board meeting. But if there's consensus, I think the table, fixing it, and the land acknowledgement are probably two areas we could work on. And then look at the other individual ones. If there's not other commissioners that have those concerns, then at least Greg can voice them and we'll articulate them and go through them one by one at the next board meeting. Otherwise, you could do it today. We didn't schedule a lot of time for it. And ultimately, it's the board's choice. You can, vote it as is, or you can direct it to us to take a look at it. I would note that none of the issues raised, fortunately, are affecting things that are in the queue. So we do have some planning and zoning items that are there. So even if the board says, yeah, let's have staff look at these specific issues raised today, I think the Planning and Zoning Commission can at least hold their hearings this month, and then we'll schedule the comp plan discussion, maybe even on consent for the next board meeting if they're addressed.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Danielowski.
Thank you. I can agree to the rewording and the wordsmithing of what Commissioner Hulls brought up, and also the addressing of the table that does not look like it's correct. The other parts, I think those are, I think we should have a vote, and then the consensus will direct what direction we'll be going, is what my feelings are on this one.
I have just a question, just perhaps a way to move forward. I'm wondering, because I don't want to put this off too long, because this has been in works for a long time, but I also would like us to be able to, we're down to probably a half dozen points. I'm wondering if there's a way to get those specific points that Commissioner Felber has down on paper, so that, because I'm not sure that I necessarily understand each of his points, just in a verbal discussion, right? And if we could table it perhaps and just go through those last remaining points, and then we end up with a vote, like you're saying, we have to put it off for a couple of weeks. But I would rather do that and make sure that everybody's clear. I guess, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I understand. I'm just, in my mind, I'm thinking this has been quite the process, and this has gone through many, many versions and many different groups of people, and we followed a timeline, and our last, it also goes through Planning Commission, and that is the recommending body to our board, not to say that this board can't, change that trajectory. But I do want to honor the process a bit and all the people that have already combed through these pages, as we had that opportunity also a couple of times when it came before us. So I'm struggling with that we're at the 11th hour. I was ready to bring out the drums and the bells and whistles, as I stated, and now we have these issues. So I'm trying to honor the process, the staff time, the Planning Commission and their work that we asked them to do for our county, and all the others that have had their eyes on this document. So I'm a little
Madam Chair?
hesitant to, the land acknowledgement piece, the colonization piece, I could handle wordsmithing that. I disagree with just some of the comments that were made right now, but don't want to get into it. I don't think it's appropriate. It wasn't on our agenda to discuss every detail. We've had time to do that. So,
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Danielowski.
I'd also like to recognize, thank you, that some of the issues are obviously going to be just plain because there's a strong opinion on it. And in regards to the dollars, I agree. There's a lot of businesses that are putting in charging stations, but then there's a lot of federal dollars out there too that are there to help in a partnership aspect of these charging stations. So I guess at this moment in time, I'd like to call the question.
With that, do you want to make any adjustments for the two pieces?
Yes, I'd like to call the question, reframe my motion to include the modifications that Commissioner Hull suggested, and in those two areas, and
Page 30, the table.
yes,
Technical error.
yep, and then the wordsmithing of,
We're going to do a little Robert's Rules thing here, so.
Okay.
Kathy, do you want to do it or you want me to do it?
Oh,
All right. So when you call the question, you go back to the original motion in the second, which was just to adopt it as is. And that's fine. Then you have a vote on the actual document today. If you in fact want to review those two items you talked to, then the original maker of the motion should, instead of calling the question, you
Okay.
should make an amendment.
okay,
And I don't remember if you made the motion to adopt it first.
yes.
So you could then, as the maker of the motion, you could amend your motion, and if the seconder agrees, then you could then go that way. But if you call a question, you have to
I
vote
will
on it.
rescind calling the question, and then I will make the amendment to my motion, and if the seconder is in agreement.
So then to clarify, it would be to table the comp plan until the next meeting, only to address the two items that were raised.
That's changing the motion.
Well, okay.
I believe,
Approve it contingent upon those, or approve it
Yes.
with those two adoptions? Okay.
yes. So approve the motion with those two changes, the land acknowledgement, rewording, and page 30, the technical error.
Yes.
Do you agree to that?
Yeah, I think there's been so much work put into this for over a year and a half, long before any of us were, the new three commissioners were even on. This was started. I think to go back and re-wordsmith this and change this in dramatic fashion is, not the process that we need to go through, because then we're gonna have to go through back to all these parties and bring it back to them again. it's not just going to be another vote in 2 weeks. It's going to be 2, 3, 4 months down the road before we do that. So yes, I'll agree to the amendment that Rayanne made, but I'll second the motion.
We just want to clarify that if the board approves the comp plan today with that motion, the final arbiter of the land acknowledgement statement will be me, and you'll direct the administrator to do that. It's not coming back to the board for another vote, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, and you can.
And when I say me, I mean on behalf of staff, Lynn, so I'm sorry I'm not usurping you or Mark, so.
And you would be doing it in a similar fashion that we used for the land acknowledgement statement out at the Big Elk Lake Park.
I take that from the spirit of the board's conversation today. And then I had also noted some of the flavoring of the training we got. So those 2 data points.
Okay, I'm good. Okay, okay. So we do have a motion and a second. Administrator Messy.
Sorry, I don't want to muddy the waters. I just want to note one other thing, which you could just say yes to, I think, with respect to the issue of just the word graffiti. I did get a chance to look it up, and this would be the review point by point. But we talk about vandalism and graffiti, which are, crimes. The second use of the graffiti could be changed to public art. And then we aren't sanctioning graffiti. So it could say, consider providing acceptable locations for, instead of graffiti, say public art. It's just a comment. It's fine as it is. I'm sorry, Rayanne, I know you're mad at me, but I think that one word, because we say graffiti twice, and the first one clearly is illegal. It's an illegal activity. The second one is saying space for the function of publicly using spray cans, which is different. If we say this is an area for you to have public art, that's different than saying it's a graffiti area. You follow the difference there? It literally is a wordsmith that fits into the same thing. But that's all up to the maker and the seconder. I think, I haven't reviewed all of them, but that one was an easy one.
Commissioner Danielewski.
We can, okay, I will then modify my motion again to include the wordsmithing of the word graffiti, so we do not go a run of illegal. Thank you. Thank you.
Does the seconder agree to that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so with those 3 changes now, I am going to ask all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion has carried with one in the negative. So, okay. Thanks, Mark.
Madam Chair, thank you. Commissioners, thank you. You all have been a very big part of this document as we've worked our way through it. So I do greatly appreciate this work that you've supported us in. Thank you.
And Madam Chair,
please.
I do want to thank all the staff and all their hard work. You did a lot of going out, meeting with all the different entities that are involved in the comp plan, the townships, the cities, the residents, the planning commission. You really did a very in-depth, and as we all know, these are living, breathing documents, so we can always live and breathe with it.
Well, I
just
definitely follow
accordingly.
the guidance of this board too, to strengthen our relationships, our partnerships, and that's what I think this process really did try to accomplish, is a strengthening of relationships with the stakeholders in Sherburne County. So,
thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, with that, we'll move on to item number 5.6. Consider the naming of the new county park on Big Elk Lake.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Good to be here today. I'm gonna give Keisha a chance to get the slide up, but I'll go ahead and get started just with kind of a review. The Big Elk Lake Parkland Development Committee includes Commission Chair Phoebe and Commissioner Gray. Also includes representation from the Palmer Township Board of Supervisors, the Briggs Lake Chain Association, the Sherburne Soil and Water Conservation District, representatives from the Upper Sioux community, the Lower Sioux Indian community, Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe, and several county staff from multiple departments. The committee has been meeting monthly since early in 2023. And we've had discussions that have really guided the process of preparing the park landscape for public access. It's meant to provide transparency to the community through the township and the Lake Association, and provide a time for us to really thoughtfully and intentionally plan with the voice of many stakeholders at the table. One of our primary objectives before we actually open the park has been to come up with a recommendation of a name for the park landscape. And we have a recommendation for you this morning. Over the last 6 months or so, we've been working to come up with a name that acknowledges the long history, as Commissioner Hulls mentioned, 8,000 to 10,000 years, and honors the partnerships that have been developed and continue to grow with 3 sovereign tribal nations. The way the county has been approaching this project is gaining attention statewide and nationally, and it's to be commended. You're doing a beautiful job. So the name for your consideration this morning, you can see it on the screen, is 2 Inlets at Bade Hahaka, Omashkuz Zaga Agans Regional Park. So 2 Inlets is descriptive of Lily Creek coming in on the east and Elk River coming in on the west, both within the footprint of the park. With the name of Elk Lake in both Ojibwe and Dakota, that honors the thousands of years that both cultures used this landscape to live and hunt and gather and hold ceremony. So I'm going to switch to the next slide, and I hope that while this has been on the screen, you've all been practicing, because we're going to do it together before you make a decision. So the Dakota translation is Bade, Hahaka, which literally translates Lake Elk. The Ojibwe phrase is Omashkuz Zaga Agans.
Omashkuz Zaga Agans,
which literally translates Elk Lake Little, even though it's Big Elk Lake, because the elk are big there, I think. So with that, I'll open it up for questions or discussion.
Any questions or discussions? We have, as the Big Elk Lake Park Committee, discussed this a number of times and really leaned into our tribal partners with the naming of this and learned a lot, just like with any other languages, just the way the Dakota, theirs is Lake Elk, and the Ojibwe, it was Elk Lake, so in different ways, and it was an interesting lesson for all of us, and we bring that recommendation to you from the committee, so.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd just like to say I'm super happy with how this came out. I mean, this is just fantastic. It gives you a name that obviously reflects the indigenous heritage of the area, but it also gives one for people who struggle with pronouncing those words. You know, I'm just heading out to 2 Inlets to go to the park. You know, I mean, we've got everything in there to represent the full history and the current uses of the park. I think it's you guys did a great job.
So would that be a motion, Commissioner Feldman?
I would motion that we approve the name, yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Gray. Any other questions or comments?
No, I concur with what Commissioner Felber said. I totally agree.
It's exciting. So, okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Thanks, Gina.
Thank you.
And then, Madam Chair, with that motion, just to note, we will rename the committee now to the proper name. So, and also, since we have grant applications in currently, will be a little bit of transition time, but we'll also transition for our grant applications as well.
Great.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Danielowski.
Thank you. That won't affect the ones that we already have received, right?
Well, we are going to give all the money back anyhow, but
No.
yeah, no. I don't think it will, and again, we'll do a more of an official transition to it as well. And I do believe the committee is also working on some graphics that will be coming forward as well, just for board review, so.
Yeah, and congratulations on the Legacy Grant Award.
Yes.
Super, thanks for all your hard work on that. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Really good. Okay, agenda item number 6, that of our Commissioner Correspondence Committee reports, upcoming meetings, future agenda items. Who would like to start?
Sure.
Okay, Gary?
I am not going to say G'day, Hadaka, Amashkush, whatever yet, but I had a big Elk Lake Park meeting on October 18th. October 23rd, I did a NACO Rural and Ag meeting. October 24th, we did the interfaith meeting here at the county, which I thought was fabulous. I think was a very good meeting with the community and community members. I went to the October 25th, I did the Northland Reliability Project, which is a scoping meeting for the power line coming from Grand Rapids. That'll be part of the same similar process we heard from XL in regards to the one going down to Lyon County. They'll be going through the same thing. Then the 26th, I did our Pillar 1 meeting. On the 30th, I did the Pillar 3 meeting, which will be ongoing processes to work on the strategic plan. That was it.
Great. Greg?
Okay, let's see. 1017, NACO Central Region, they discussed Operation Greenlight, which is a great thing. We personally committed another 20,000 lumens of lights to the outside of our house for this year. So I'm pretty good about that. And then
Grid needs to be moving for you,
well,
I guess.
no, it's all LED. So anyhow, the Army Corps, they talked about the Supreme Court of the United States ruling on waters of the United States, that's all changing, and that's important stuff because that does affect everybody in government. Let's see here. I sat in on the IWE presentation. Gotta get my, here we go. I sat in the IWE presentation from Career Solutions, Minnesota Jobs and Training. They talked about that quite a bit and whether or not, we should become one. At this point in time, they don't have any data that demonstrates the effectiveness of that designation. So, that they're hoping that during this recertification of some places, they'll come up with some data. So that'll be an ongoing process to watch that. The NACO Rural Action Committee discussed public lands and issues around them. There wasn't a whole lot going on there. Our Township meeting, I showed up for that to discuss the County Road 75 speed issue, which was brought to me on a constituent request, and then the county zoning did a presentation there too, which was good. I'll let Rayanne talk about the Central Mississippi Regional Planning Partnership. I attended that by remote as I was driving to the next meeting, and then Rayanne actually did make it up there to the Tri-County Solid Waste Commission meeting. We're looking for practical methods for separating organics. Cardboard recycling is overwhelmed, and Pope Douglas fees did go up because they have to at this point in time. Waste to energy is still considered preferable by Minnesota Pollution Control. 90% of the waste volume approximately burns, which is very significant. Executive Steering Committee, we spent a lot of time on the state's family paid and medical leave issues, which is simply get more complicated and a bigger headache the more you read them. I was briefed on the cannabis meeting that was held, although I did not attend that. The Violent Offender Task Force is getting new lab equipment. They're getting new warrant vests and clothing, which is good. Vests are always a good thing. We've seen how they work for us, for our officers that are making those significant entries. NACO Justice and Public Safety Steering Committee, they had somebody in there from the American Jewish Committee talking about how there has been a significant uptick in anti-Semitic activities across the United States for the past few years. It has simply rocketed completely out of control since Hamas invaded Israel a month ago. And they've been, for years, they've been dealing with these issues with Hamas and Israel. And the main thing that they were trying to get out is they want to know is that the Jewish community feels they need to be seen by everyone. And I mean, I would have to personally say that in my years of my Jewish friends that I worked with, my bandmates, and all the kids that rode my school bus when I drove the school bus for Talmud Torah, who are now 45, 50 years old. I definitely want them to know that I see them and I care about their issues. Let's see. There was some FEMA discussion during that meeting. And let me see. Oh, sorry. And I think that that's about where I'm at with that's what I had for this time.
Okay, Rhiann?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry. October 17th was on Zoom for the NACO Central Region meeting. I was supposed to be in DC, unfortunately, but I got sick and I was down for a whole week, so this is what I was able to get in. And then October 23rd, attended the strategic planning pillar number 2, which is around economic development, and we really made great headway in getting that pillar kind of reworded a little bit, not by much, but also included a lot of what also has been accomplished in that strategic plan. Attended my options board meeting that evening. October 24th, also was at the Interfaith Community Outreach meeting. It was very well attended. They did a little bit of a different format this year that was really, I think, really embraced and got a lot of good conversation going amongst small groups and stuff. So I was really encouraged by the people that were in the room and where we can probably go with what those outreach opportunities are going to provide us. Also, October 25th, attended my sub-coalition retreat meeting by Zoom, and this was just phase 2 of the previous month's retreat meeting. And that organization is continuing to do just such great work through the county and with the school districts and stuff in our efforts to really get a handle on substance use prevention. And so I just really have to put out kudos to them. They are doing an excellent job. And the amount of schools that are embracing that opportunity to connect really, really is making a difference in our youth. Also then attended the Big Lake Township Board meeting that night. October 26th, in the morning, had our CMRP meeting. I didn't think that meeting is a 7:30 meeting, and the Tri-County Solid Waste meeting got moved to 9 o'clock for this last month, so I did not think I was going to be able to make both, but it was a short CMRP meeting. I hit the road and was able to make it with a minute to spare. So, and as Greg said, that we did vote to increase their request for 2%, which, as everybody knows, the cost of doing business has just gone up, and it was very, very well documented as to why they needed it. We also are exploring ways to, we're calling it our Plan B. We need to start having a Plan B at the Tri-County Solid Waste. How are we really going to start moving forward in working together to actually reduce the amount of waste that is going into landfills and stuff? So we're really making some good headway there, good conversations. Also then, October 30th, attended a recognition of Manufacturers Week. We got a tour of the Lisi Medical manufacturing plant in Big Lake. It's just amazing, this company, how clean that environment is. They manufacture just these smallest little components that are used in surgeries and the medical field, and some of them are like, you can hardly see them, like a speck of dust almost. So it's a very cool facility to see. October 31st, attended the Big Lake Chamber meeting. November 2nd, had a Minnesota Council on Aging meeting. I was able to fill in for Lisa, who was out of state, and I always find those such very, very good meetings to attend, partly probably because I can relate. So it's helpful. But they're doing good, really, really good work as well. Also had a chamber ambassador meeting that day. And then November 3rd, attended the Big Lake, most of the SUP school districts have their own organizations as well that are student-led. And so I attended the Big Lake Sub Coalition meeting, and they have such a very active group of students that are so engaged and involved in what they are doing to get the message out. We're going to be positive messaging as to most students do not partake in what these substances are and getting that message out instead of the ones of our day where they crack the eggs open in a frying pan and this is your brain. So we're going positive. We're going to try that route. So anyways, that was it for me.
Hey, Andrew?
Yeah, it's actually kind of a quiet couple of weeks for me. So the two main things that I was involved with are the EDA meeting since the last board meeting, which leads us up to this housing summit that we've got coming up tomorrow, which I'm very much looking forward to. And then the other one was the Mississippi Watershed TAC meeting. Sat in on that. And that process is moving along nicely, I think, at this point. It's a long process to get these watershed districts set up, but I feel like that's moving in the right direction. And that's basically it for me.
Okay, and Housing Summit will be well attended by board members. Gary and I will be at MICA, or both. I will not be at the Housing Summit, so, but it will be well attended, so I look forward to hearing how it goes. I had a NACO Health Policy Steering Committee. The subjects that they covered were maternal child health and mental health parity regulation on the national level, which we're always working toward, equal coverage for mental health, substance use, and medical surgical benefits. The Big Elk Lake Park land development, I had a TRICAP. We're in the middle of our executive director search. I also had a TRICAP Finance Committee meeting and a TRICAP board meeting. The Rural Action Caucus with NACO I sat in on. The Sherburne Multidisciplinary Team, amazing people that sit in that room to discuss some of our most challenging individuals and their heart and the work that they do. I'm blown away by them. It's our Sheriff's Office, Corrections, County Attorney, Health and Human Services, and pretty amazing if you get to the honor to sit in that room, which we all will someday. Attended Livonia Township. Some of our staff were there. Dave, Lucas, Gabby, and Jessica giving updates with their departments. The Faith Leadership Committee I thought was outstanding. I think it's one of, we do many great things, but this is just such a great opportunity to gather people that can partner with us in different ways. NACO Healthy Counties Committee, the Executive Steering Committee, Greg reported on. The NACO Immigration Reform Task Force I sat in on. I continue to meet with business owners and people up in the Zimmerman area who are having heartburn about the 169-4 construction as well as the County Road 4. We meet with I'll meet with anyone. I've been in many houses, many businesses, and it really is good to sit down with people and discuss their challenges with it. And what I say to them is transportation projects are not comfortable for business owners. I mean, you look at what has gone through Elk River, but the county will do whatever we can within our means to mitigate the effects on your business. That's our goal. So I will continue to meet with them because these projects are still a year to 3 years out. So if you hear from people, please direct them my way. I'm willing to meet with anyone. Pillar 3 I met with, strategic planning. That went well. Did legislative prep for the upcoming meeting with the Commissioner of Transportation as well as the Senate bonding tour, which is this Thursday. Great River Regional Library, our collections committee met for the last time. We had an ISD 728 Community Partners meeting just this last week. Got an update on all things Elk River, Zimmerman, and Rogers with their buildings, and a lot of partners gather, which is a great time to connect with a lot of nonprofits also in the community. And then my NACO Behavioral Health Subcommittee met, and the presentation that we had there was artificial intelligence, using that for documentation, especially for our providers in health care and especially with mental health, and some great options out there. You know, I always say our workforce is not going to get any better just because we don't have the bodies. So we need to figure out how to do our work differently. And I think artificial intelligence might be the answer to some of that. So, and that is it. Anything else?
Just a reminder that we will go into closed session first, and then we'll come back for a workshop following that. And just a note for our viewing public that today is election day for local elections. Should anybody have a local election, encourage folks to get out and vote.
Thank you. That moves us into recessing our regular meeting. We are going to take a 10-minute break. It is 10:35. We will be back here at 10:45, at which point, as Administrator Messelt said, we will be going into closed session. So we will be on break for 10 minutes.